911 dispatcher saving lives by day. Trauma warrior conquering abuse shadows by life. What horrors did Tara Goebel conquer to claim her Mi Vida Loca victory? Let's get started. Is that you're a 911 operator? Yes?
Yeah, I'm a dispatcher for our provincial police.
I know people who have considered that position.
I grew up in a family with domestic violence, so I've had to talk to the kids that have had easier for me to kind of understand what they're going through. Parents are fighting, and I think it makes it easier for me.
With the sexual abuse, did you feel like you could talk to your parents, or was it a parent?
It was a parent, yeah.
Did you feel like you weren't able to tell the other parent?
I did. Nothing was ever done about it.
This is From Wounds to Wisdom with Barbie Moreno. Real talk, deep healing, and stories that turn pain into power. Let's dive in. Welcome, Tara. So excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
One of the conversations that we had when we were first talking, and that kind of intrigues me, is that you're a 911 operator, yes?
Yeah, I'm a dispatcher for our provincial police.
I love that. I would imagine we're going to talk about your story and all of that different stuff. I know people who have considered that position, and so they simply couldn't do it because some of the stuff that they, hear just triggers their history, right? Have you?
It definitely makes you put yourself into the people's shoes a little bit more. Like, I've had a few things that have come up. I grew up in a family with domestic violence, so I've had to talk to the kids that have had, their parents are fighting, and I think it makes it easier for me to kind of understand what they're going through, whereas somebody that's never been through it doesn't quite know what to say to a child that's kind of experiencing that. So I almost think it makes me better at my job. And I mean, sometimes it'll make me think back, and I feel sad for myself for having had that upbringing, but then I'm like, I wouldn't be as good at my job and be the person that I am if I wouldn't have gone through it. So, you got to take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you have to depersonalize it, right? Because otherwise it would just become too overwhelming, especially doing it day after day after day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you care to share some of your story with us?
So I grew up in, kind of a blue collar family. Both my parents worked full-time jobs. They both were raised in like generational trauma kind of situations, very similar to one another, where there was like either alcoholism or abuse or a little bit of both. That's kind of what they raised us with. There was a lot of alcoholism, a lot of like just emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, like everything that you could think of kind of went on, aside from making excuses for them. Because my mom always used to say to me, if you don't like the way somebody's treating you, then walk away from it.
Yeah.
But she would put up with it, and she always said don't repeat patterns. But I don't know if she saw it, but after hearing that repeatedly growing up, I made sure that that wasn't what I wanted for my kids. I had to separate myself from a lot of family and stuff, just because it was kind of more traumatizing for me to have them involved, because there was a lot of up and down emotional drama that it just wasn't worth trying to incorporate into my new family. I don't have parents that I get to talk to all the time, and my kids don't have that relationship with their grandparents. But in the end, it's really made our family really tight. Like, we just have the two kids. So my husband and I and our two kids are very close. We talk about absolutely everything. Like, everything's out in the open, and we've just kind of grown up together because we were so young when we had them.
You were 19 and you had two kids, right?
Yeah. When we do it well.
Some of us, especially when we're aware of our generational trauma. It's funny when you say like how your mom would tell you what not to accept. Yeah, she was accepting it. I have somebody who's close in my life. I won't say who it is, but they had a mother who did drugs. That she wasn't physically abusive or anything. She was just more neglectful and was addicted to drugs. And so she used to tell this person all of the time, don't do drugs. And it was like, but yet she's doing drugs. But it was because she was aware of what the drugs were doing to her.
Hmm.
She was accepting that she was trying to make sure this person didn't repeat the patterns that she had gone through. So sometimes I wonder, like, when our parents tell us something like that, if they know that they're not strong enough to make those choices, yet they want to instill in us, like, we want better for you, right? Without
Mm,
knowing that that's what they're doing. Do you feel like
yeah.
it could have been where she was coming from?
I think so in the early years, like she was really into kind of explaining that kind of stuff. And then once I got older, I don't know if it was her own self-esteem issues or like just that I was a stronger individual than she ever was, but then she just kind of got where she was more destructive rather than trying to like encourage me. So I think maybe she just kind of got to the point where she wasn't even trying to teach me a lesson anymore. She was just more upset that somebody else could turn that around and she never got to. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but it was kind of like she was upset, especially once I had kids and took care of them and we had close relationships. I almost feel like she was kind of jealous of that
Mhm.
situation. Like I think in the years prior, she was trying to like explain that to me, but then once she sees how the outcome actually is, I think it made her kind of sad because she was already so far down like the drinking and that there was no real walking that back. Like there was already so much damage done. So
And
I'm
your
glad that
progression,
she said it, but
well, and your progression probably makes her see her failures, right? So
yeah.
you're mirroring to her what she wanted to be, but didn't have the strength or the self-awareness or the discipline or even I mean, because it takes a lot to
Mhm.
break generational trauma, right? But I would imagine that for her, it almost brought up her failures. And so
Mhm.
and then being an alcoholic, I would imagine that she didn't have the best way to reflect if that's how she was feeling. So then,
Yeah.
oftentimes those people can gaslight, be mean, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes it sad though. It's my kids that missed out. And my parents can be good people. It's not like they were, there was bad times, but there was good times too. You don't ever want them to be discredited for, what they did provide. But it's just, yeah, they got to get with the times. Things are, like there's ways to improve. There's so many resources out there that you don't need to, just sit by yourself and try and figure it out. So,
I agree with that. And I shared my experience with you when we originally talked that I have the same thing, right? So I have parents I just simply don't trust my children with, especially one of them. And so there's so many one I don't talk to at all, my father. And then my mom, she has so many parameters and rules that sometimes I feel like she's walking on eggshells around me, but it's because I put those in place because of my own experiences, right? It's hard for her to understand where I'm coming from. But then for me, it's like, well, I want my children to have a grandparent. They only have one, right?
mhm.
And so you want them to have that relationship, but it's like you're always constantly aware and watching to make sure that nothing goes wrong.
Yeah. Well, and it's just like, that one traumatic event can just like change their whole life. So you get scared of it happening to them. Like, I know when I first had my kids, I didn't want them going for sleepovers. I didn't want, like, it took a long time for me to kind of feel comfortable with different things, making sure that I knew they knew what was right and what was wrong. And not everybody has that like anxiety.
Right.
And it's not fair. It's too bad that they have to go through that even to have a relationship.
Like my kids, was a big no-no on sleepovers. People could come to us, but it wasn't
Mhm.
very few people that my children can go and sleep at their house. And the one place that my son can go, it's a single mom. And so obviously, not to say that women don't molest children, but they're very much less likely
Mhm.
than men. And from my recollection, you also dealt with sexual abuse, yes?
Yes. Really nerve-wracking. Not so much with my son. I guess I just kind of didn't really associate with that as much, but a lot with my daughter. Terrified to let her be alone with any other males besides my husband and my son. Like,
Yeah.
which is awful, but
It's not
I mean,
awful.
it got better. Whereas, like, like I said, once they're old enough to kind of know what should and shouldn't be done to them, then it was a little bit easier. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely not like I didn't want them going anywhere overnight or it being put in a situation where they were somewhere alone for a few minutes.
You know what it's like to be in that situation, how much it can affect you. And then I would imagine that you also know that the person who's doing these acts to these children make them feel like it's their fault and that they have to be quiet and they can't share it with anybody. So even if you have a good relationship with your kid, if they're being persuaded this way and they're told these things, they may not tell you.
Yeah.
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 Interesting that you say the thing about the son. Maybe because my brother experienced the same stuff I experienced. I recognize that it's not just girls.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was equally as obsessive about my son simply because we associate sexual abuse oftentimes with it happening to girls. And I think because of that stigma, it happens to boys a lot, and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't come out until way later in life when they've kind of like, been self-destructive and stuff because it's such a bigger shame, it seems like, for them.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot with like our clientele that we deal with. Like I get a lot more kind of those calls and stuff. You do hear of it a lot more
Mm.
now that people are being able to speak about it
Yeah.
a little bit more comfortably too. I just wasn't quite there. Like it,
Yeah.
thankfully, he got to live a little bit more of a normal life
Was
where
he-
she was a little more sheltered.
yeah. Was he your second one?
Yeah, my son's the oldest,
Oh,
so yeah.
I noticed too, and you might even encounter this in your work, maybe not because you're at an emergency service. It's usually the people in the community that are supposed to be like the trusted authorities,
Mhm,
or it's like the dad who is like this outstanding citizen.
mhm,
These are the people that seem to hide undercover who do these things to the children. So sad. What have you learned from your experiences? I know that your big thing is about breaking generational trauma. So
mhm,
let's talk to somebody who dealt with these things and they're still in this space where they haven't quite, they know, like, let's say maybe they want to have children or they have children and they're very super protective over everything, but they aren't quite, maybe they have a drinking problem, maybe they are self-medicating in some way. They haven't quite break those patterns. What would you
mhm.
say to them?
I think you really have to realize what you don't want to be, what you didn't enjoy growing up, or situations that you were put in. You don't want to put another person through that. I didn't want my kids to ever feel like they couldn't talk to me, not going to be at one of their events because I was at home drinking, or that I couldn't pick them up from a party because I was at home drinking myself. Like, I wanted them to know that everything that I said I would do for them, I would do. And it just meant a lot to me. I think if you're gonna break it, it has to be what you want, and you have to find the resources and maybe that person that helps you hold yourself accountable. Bottom line is it has to be what you want to do for yourself and your family.
And as a person who did go through so much, I meant to refer back to like the parents, how they understand about the child. Do you, from a parent's perspective, most of those parents come from their own generational trauma.
Mhm.
So then they have these kids that they do this to. I'm trying to go to the perspective of the parent who's doing these things, who didn't break that generational trauma, who now has children who resent them, like your children.
Mhm.
Don't feel safe around them. Do you have like any thoughts on what they could do? So what could your parents have done to make you feel safe?
I had requested them to go to counseling a lot of times and they just would refuse. I think a lot of that comes from like embarrassment and shame, not wanting somebody else to know, what you've done wrong or what's been done to you.
Mhm.
And I think they needed to put that pride aside. Could have just been there to hear my feelings in a safe place.
Right.
Like we never really had the chance to kind of talk things over and understand each other's perspective a lot, I think. And I spent a lot of time reflecting on not excuses for them, but reasons why they had become the parents that they had. And I understand,
Right.
but I also don't, that doesn't mean that it's okay. I think like the drinking needed to stop. You can't have a conversation with somebody that's under the influence all the time. Like my mother and I would have a conversation and then she'd forget that we had it the
Mhm.
following day. So you thought you broke, some of the walls down, and then the next day it was like she didn't even remember saying anything. So like it needs to be in a professional setting, something that you can both agree to do and listen. Don't feel like you're being attacked.
Mhm.
just listen to how like your child is feeling and apologize or explain or whatever. I know my parents tried to provide, and they were younger parents too, and they only had so much to work with, but there's a time where you get older, and why are you still doing that?
Right. You're supposed to get wiser with age, right? So
Yeah.
that we haven't moved forward. And obviously that's their inability to evolve,
Mhm.
change and understand and grow and all of that different stuff, which is unfortunate because it's a lot. I think it's
Mhm.
a lot with our parents' generation for sure.
Mhm.
Really screwed up our generation.
Yeah. No kidding.
It's like crazy. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure every generation has their thing, but even like if you read stuff, it's just like the generation, like the baby boomer generation, when they had their kids, really messed with them.
Yeah. Yeah, it was and like I said, my grandparents came from hard times and stuff too. Like, I'm not discrediting anything that anybody went through, but I mean there could have been better ways to deal with things.
Sometimes I wonder though if it's the evolution of society and the fact that we are now able to discuss these things without as much shame.
Hmm.
They didn't have the tools that we have either. The invention of web, being able to go on the web and look things up and then find resources and stuff wasn't something that they had. It would be significantly harder. And yes, maybe they have these resources now, but a lot of them in that age group don't even know how to use the resources that we have.
Yeah,
So not saying that again, not saying that what they did was okay, but understanding maybe a little bit and having a little bit of compassion for the fact that they did not have our resources.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it was a totally different time where it's like even just my parents, like they only had their elders to really go to for advice, and their advice wasn't always the best. Or
Right,
so,
or if they were doing the same thing to them, if they're
yeah.
were doing the same thing to them that they were doing to you, right? So
Yeah.
they have nobody to help them, and I felt like that generation was extremely lost. Okay, well, one, with the sexual abuse, did you feel like you could talk to your parents, or was it a parent?
It was a parent. Yeah.
Okay, so then did you feel like you weren't able to tell the other parent?
I did.
Yeah, why? And were you
And
relieved?
nothing. Yeah, at first I was, and then nothing was ever done about it. They
Mm,
had said that our family would go through counseling, and it was my choice if that would be a good kind of solution, and then it never happened.
wow. And
Yeah.
so that in and of itself is its own trauma,
Yeah.
without overusing the words, but because so many people don't speak up simply because they don't feel like they can. But if you speak up and then you're literally ignored, basically, I
Yeah.
think that would be devastating.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awful, and it just made a a rift right there.
Mhm.
Like, because then you can't trust anyone, or
No,
you feel like you can't. and
right.
and you're not even understanding what you're feeling when you're that age. Like, I
Mhm.
was 11, so I didn't understand. I was just like, okay, like this is just how it's going to be, and you know life goes on. But then as I look back now and reflect on different behaviors and things that I went through as I got older, I can totally see like the process of elimination of like what had happened and what triggered these kind of things to happen, and just like having relationships with people. Like, I don't trust a lot of people, and that you can understand why. Like, the one set of people that you're supposed to trust
Right.
took that from you. So it's pretty hard to ever have somebody that you can really rely on.
It's kind of sad in a lot of ways because it's like you said, you lost the ability to trust in people. I think like
Mhm.
in people, in human beings, like you've lost that ability to trust. And I feel like I don't know about you, but even as I go through this journey and I do all of this work on myself, that doesn't change.
No, you give people a chance, and then they goof it up even just a little bit, and it's like, no, I'm not taking that path again. Like, I know how this ends.
Right.
So then it's just really hard to put in the work and the effort, and or risk them hurting your family. And I don't want my kids to feel that way. Like, I always try different ways to explain how to trust people, but not having it yourself kind of makes you,
Right.
I want them to be safe too. That's something that I really have a hard time with.
Yeah.
Like,
My teenager, my daughter, she is 17 and she just got, like her first real boyfriend. And I liked him in the very beginning. And then he did something that made me not trust him. And
Yeah.
I cannot move past it. Like, I try to be nice. I'm very
Yeah.
funny, right? I try to be nice. But every time I look at him, she'd probably be pissed if she hears me saying this in here. But every time I look at him, all I can see is the betrayal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad. And I always, you hear of people that like won't talk to certain people about their relationship problems or whatever because they don't want them to have that like bad view of the person. But
Yeah.
I find like people like us, we just take it that much further where it's like you're done. Like there's no coming back from that. You'd have to like create a miracle.
Your marriage been like? What type of relationship do you have? You said that I mean, you guys got together young.
Yeah.
Does he have a similar history?
No, his family's pretty good. Like his parents are divorced, but they're all like very supportive.
Mhm.
Uh, and he grew up really close with his siblings. So it's a different kind of family. Like we grew up in a small town where there's a lot of like dramas that went on, but just nothing like what I experienced. But he's very open to listening and like just supporting me. And he's seen my parents, how they've treated me kind of since we've been together since I was 16. So he's seen the different personality traits that they have. It's not like he doesn't understand or doesn't believe what went on. So that's kind of nice. Like we had that background. And yeah, his family just like has always supported me. So that's been really nice too. Not having a relationship with my own family is when we first had the kids, we were young and we went through a lot of our own stresses and broke up and got back together. And so there was a lot of building trust that we had to go through in order for me to be completely comfortable. And I think it's only until like within the last few years that I've really kind of felt myself relax a
Right.
lot more.
Yeah, find the safe, like that you actually feel safe in the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does he understand your parenting style based on your past?
Yeah, the kind of nice thing is we had like extreme differences. So his parents just kind of let him go and do his own thing and like no curfew, no nothing, because he had two older brothers. So, that
They
he had a
retired.
little, yeah, yeah, exactly. So he had a little more freedom. Whereas with me, I was like always grounded, always stuck in the house, always doing chores. Like my sister and I are 7 years apart, so I always had to take care of her. And so when we had kids, I didn't want them to have that like strict situation, and he didn't want them to have too much freedom. So we kind of found a way to like balance that out, which was really nice.
Yeah.
And same thing for him. He wanted, anything that he didn't like as a child, he tried to change for our kids. So he was really involved in all of their sports and, like teaching them how to do regular day-to-day things. And so it really kind of was the best of both worlds, but we had to be really open with each other as to, like you can't just tell me you don't want the kids to do this. You need to explain it why. And that made it easier for us to kind of build on our parenting.
Mm. I love just being able to have a conversation with like another person who gets it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, there isn't too many
Yeah.
or people that are just not open to it. Everybody's gets ashamed of what they've been through, and that's not fair. There was nothing you could do to change it. When you're a child. So there's no point in being ashamed of it. Use it as fuel to, make your life better and find ways to help other people through it is the way I use it.
As we wrap up, what is your wisdom for somebody? What is a tool that they can walk away with?
I think knowing you're not the only one.
That's big.
Yeah, like a lot of times people feel so secluded in their situation that they really feel like they're the only one that's going through that. And, maybe in your area that you're on your street, you're the only one going through it, but there's so many people out there that are going through similar situations. The resources we have nowadays, find somebody to talk to
Mhm.
and, bounce ideas off of or go for help. And it doesn't have to be known to everybody. Like I used to go to my school counselor when I was a kid and nobody needed to know. They would just call me out of the classroom and I'd go and talk to her, and something that helped me while I was growing up. You're not by yourself going through it.
And things like this help people, I think, because they do recognize, as we all have these conversations on various podcasts and stuff, they'll see a little bit of themselves in there, and then they can see, you didn't repeat the patterns. So
Yeah.
if you can do it, they can do it. If I can do it, they can do it, right?
Yeah.
So what do you do with this work? Do you just enjoy doing podcasts? Do you offer a service to people?
I just like to do podcasts. I talk to, people when they're going through things that people have always kind of been drawn to telling me everything that's going on. I think just because I am open. So then they feel a little more comfortable being open. And then I wrote a book about my journey, and it was really healing for me because it helped me to just live through everything again, put it in a place that was kind of a safe place for me.
What's the name of your book?
Mi Vida Loca, the diary of a teen mom.
Loca.
Yeah.
Loca, yeah. So My
Yeah.
Crazy Life.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that. Love
Yeah.
We'll put that, is that on Amazon by chance?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll
Yeah,
put
it
that
is.
in the description so that people who relate to you can go through and see what they can find in your story that can help them on their journey.
Yeah. And that's it, right? Now, everybody's isn't the same, but there's always that little bit of similarity that, might be there to help you. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I've got a lot of it, like teen parenting and generational trauma, you name it. We've kind of done it all. So
And I'm sure that people will find inspiration from your transformation as well.
I hope so. And it's you don't do it for that, right? I'm not looking for flowers,
Right.
but like bliss in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that you
Right.
have kind of broken that. And now that my kids are adults and they've got careers and, they're starting their own relationships and they're strong in their decisions. And it's just like, yeah, we did it.
Did your kids, one more last question. Did your kids go to college?
My daughter did.
Mhm.
My son is a police officer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
On the daughter side of it, so the reason I'm asking this is because mine's a senior now in high school, right? So college is the next step. And
Yeah.
then the thing that plays out in my mind all of the time, which I'm trying not to transfer to her, is all of the stuff that happens to girls at college because they go to parties, the guys get, put shit in their drinks and da da da.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, because of the way that I was raised and the way that, I had to go through my childhood and early life, I see every situation that could possibly happen. And so I'm
Yeah.
trying not to limit her experiences in college. And also, like, how do you give them the tools to know, like, this shit's real? It happens all
Yeah.
the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think that's just having that trust in them that you've kind of given them all of that to to
Tools.
use. Yeah. And if they're in a situation to know that we're there.
Mm,
Like I think that's kind of the biggest thing. I always wanted my kids to know, like, I don't, whatever you did, I don't care if it was wrong, just be honest
yeah.
and I'll help you through it.
Yeah.
But and that has always been what kind of got me through all of the situations. I just had a breakdown today because our daughter's engaged now and talking about buying a house, and you're so happy for them, but at the same time, like letting that go, like loosening the strings it's a lot.
I think it's for people who don't understand, it's significantly worse when you have a history of trauma because you've been in survival mode for so long that
Yeah.
you're literally hyper aware of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, how easily somebody can cut you out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always a fear, no matter how tight you are with somebody. Because like, I mean, as a mom, I can't imagine ever not having communication with my kids. But as a daughter, I've lived through that. So to know that that so easily could be done by somebody makes it really, really tough to like let them go on
Trust
their
the world, right? It's hard to
yeah.
trust the world. Yeah, no, I get it. I appreciate you sharing your story.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I really love the authenticity
Thank you.
that you present, and I think that it's going to be important for whoever listens for sure.
I hope so. Thanks so much.
Of course, I appreciate you.
You too.
If this story spoke to you, let's keep the healing going. Visit barbiemoreno.com for my online course, Awakening Your Worth and Healing Energy sessions, one-on-one coaching, and your free healing guide. Your next step is waiting.